Welcome. What's up? Thanks for joining us again. It's another edition of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast. We're going to recap the conference championship matchups that just went down. The Bengals Chiefs game just ended about a half an hour ago. An epic one. Lot to get into in that one. I felt like that game had so many layers, so many different things you can talk about, from, some injuries, some questionable calls, some Zach Taylor blowing a gasket at some really, possible infractions by the officials there. A lot of stuff to get to in that one, but we have to start with the sad news. This podcast no longer has any teams left playing this season. The Niners were eliminated in a 31-7 loss to the Eagles. Tough one today for you, Joey. Tough one for Niner fan nation. Really unraveled from the get-go. Let's get started. Let's just break it down. It did not feel great, baby. How are you feeling? This is the worst day of the year for a sports fan when your team gets knocked off.
So I'll have a moment of silence for the 2022 San Francisco 49ers and all of their quarterbacks.
All 73 of them that did not finish the season.
They did not make it.
No.
Not one. That's crazy.
It is crazy.
About it. Like, 4 quarterbacks, and not like, if we had to play a game next week, like, who would start? Wildcat?
Yeah.
The Wildcat? Is that what we're doing? If you had told me before the season that the Niners would be in the NFC Championship game and Christian McCaffrey would be taking snaps at quarterback for the Niners, I'd be like, what planet are you on?
Yeah.
But yeah,
you would have said you would have said that if someone told you Brock
I'd be like,
Purdy
number
was
one, we
taking
have
snaps.
Christian McCaffrey. How did that happen? Number 2, why is he playing quarterback? And 3, if he is, how the heck did we make it that far? Anyways,
one of the wildest games ever, man.
It's just everything went bad immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even on the punt, like Bosa said he took a cleat that was like an inch or two deep in his leg, like he's standing on the sideline, and it's like everything that could go wrong went wrong. They could not stop taking just killer penalties. But yeah, I mean, it's just, the game was, Devontae Smith's catch, no challenge. And for some reason, we drew up a play to have Tyler Kroft block Hassan Reddick that got Brock Purdy maybe done for a pretty long time. But yeah, I don't know what to analyze. I don't know I feel like the game was an incomplete.
Mm-hmm. I would have felt like, okay, we're going to have, I'm not going to say we had a shot to win, but like, I think this could be like, we could at the very least make some butts in the seats pretty tight if we could go in 14-7, potentially somehow just kind of gather ourselves at halftime. We get the ball, and then the dam broke. The snap fumble, and it's just the defense, couldn't keep. I mean, I was like, okay, maybe 3, maybe a turnover, nothing. So let's just start with the first half. So I thought it was absolutely nuts. So 3 plays into the game, Fred Warner goes down with what you texted me. You're like, oh my God, that's a collarbone. And I was
like, see you next season. Yeah. He went from the hospital to the starting lineup like in 3 minutes.
Yeah. It looked like, oh, he's out for the game immediately, the way he went down, because he's a guy who never goes down like that. And you're like, oh my God, nightmare scenario. Then 2 plays later, he comes right back out there, and you're like, oh my gosh,
I was like, what was that? I was like, what was that, Fred? Like,
yeah,
was a stinger? I mean, must have been.
Yeah, incredible that he just gets back out there, and you're like, okay, all things considered, this is fine. Then the Eagles go down, they score a touchdown after probably what will go down as the play of the game. So prior to the Purdy injury, prior to the Bosa injury, all of this stuff, Devontae Smith down the left sideline, lofted ball up, jumps up, high points the ball with one hand. Incredible catch. But as he's coming down, it was very clear from the replay that it did touch the ground and it was incomplete. But they didn't show us that angle until after that play had taken place. So I was saying when I was watching the game, I saw Devontae Smith take his fists and pop them together after he made the catch, which I was yelling at the TV. That's his signal to the offense that I did not catch it. We got to run this shit. Run a play now. And I think everybody in the world knew that.
But it was almost like it was so obvious. Like, is he telling everyone he didn't catch the ball? Like, I mean, it was like, I mean, yeah, like you're right. I mean, they showed replay after replay. I'm like, I don't see a replay where he doesn't catch it. And
Right.
I mean, I just don't think coaches throw the challenge flag just to throw it. I mean, obviously hindsight, he should have thrown it, but like if your video guy says I don't see anything, and then 3-4 minutes later the TV guys on camera 13 like, oh nope, here it is.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard to do. He would have had to throw it blindly, but it was such a big play on fourth down. I mean, you might as well have. I mean, it's only the first half. If you're down a timeout in the first half, it might have been worth it, but
yeah. That completely changed the game, because then the next drive after that, the Niners, they had a chance to. I told you they needed to get a field goal there. They needed to find a way to get 3 to keep themselves in the game. They didn't. They punted. Then they got what felt like the first of 3 or 4 big stops to keep that game close. And then the Purdy injury. And that, like you said, you had your backup tight end trying to block Hassan Reddick, who had 19 and a half sacks this year. And you could tell right away he was clutching his hand. He probably had no feeling in his hand. And man, tough moment.
Not only did he hit the elbow, but it almost looked like he got his elbow hit, and then even his hand came down on a helmet.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I kind of joked like, oh, we're about to see Josh Johnson, and then he's out there. You're like, oh, he's out there. This is not good. And yeah, I mean, it clearly, like, the play that he couldn't, we weren't getting the plays called in the huddle, delay of game after delay of game. He actually did make a couple, I mean, I don't even remember, but I think he was the quarterback on the touchdown. He must have been on the touchdown drive.
He was, yeah. So that's what I was going to say and that tied the game, right? It made it 7-7.
Yeah, it was 7. I'm like,
which
okay, like,
big shades in this one of the 2017 NFC Championship game, Vikings at Eagles. That one finished 38-7. This one finished 31-7, where both games were 7-7, and it felt like it was anybody's game, despite the Niners having like a huge injury. You were like, if they can run like they did with Debo and McCaffrey on that drive, and the way Hurts looked, the way the Niners defense looked, I'm like, they can grind out like a 14-13 or 17-16 win. I was like, even with Josh Johnson, that roster is so good, they can run the ball and make it work. And then, as you mentioned, the floodgates open at the end of the second quarter. And I mean, at that point, you had to think, unless Purdy came out to start the second half and looked like his normal self, this game was over. And I would imagine that's what you were thinking.
Yeah, they went up 14-7, and I don't remember if that was the one that, like, I mean, we had killer penalty, like on third down, like we hit the punter. Like, I don't know if that was. I know that eventually that penalty led to a touchdown, but I don't know if it was the 14-7. But 14-7, I'm like, okay, like as long as we get to halftime and kind of gather ourselves. But then Josh Johnson literally dropped the ball, and yeah,
a lot of discourse on Twitter about 2 things in that game. At that same time at the end of the second quarter. So a lot of people were saying that the Niners gunner, it was Mason, I believe, right, who ran into the punter.
Yeah.
It looked like both he was held and pushed into the punter. So a lot of folks were saying that was not the right call in that situation. And then the second thing was down 14-7. Niners are going to try to get the old 2-for-1 where you score at the end of the first half and you get the kickoff to start the second half. And the drive started well. I believe it was a decent kick return and then like a decent run by.
They hit Samuel. I know because they threw it. I was like, oh, we're throwing it with this guy.
That's right. It was a slant to Samuel.
And we're like, okay. And then the very next, he was like,
yeah, that ruined it. And like, you were pissed at the effort there because it bounces off his hands. It reminded me a lot of the Cam Newton play in Super Bowl 50 where it's like he's on the ground, the ball is there, there's a chance to go get it, and he just made what appeared to be a business decision there, which is frustrating.
Can we just snap the ball? I mean, like, throw a pick, like, I don't know, fumble it running, trying to scram. Can we, like, he's been in the league for like 15 years. Like, can you just, but I mean, it was Then the dam broke. I mean, I thought the defense, I mean, it looks bad giving up 31, but I thought the defense played incredibly well, given other than the penalties killed him. I mean, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is fully healthy or not. He probably isn't, but he didn't look great. He had a couple overthrows on some deep passes.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the Niners did a pretty good job of limiting his runs. But yeah, you can see even on the Miles Sanders touchdown runs, like they're so prepared for the zone, keep by Jalen Hurts. Like Fred Warner, they showed on the TV, like he didn't even move on one of the touchdowns. Like he just is like, I don't want to go balls to the wall to the running back, and Jalen goes untouched. But the problem is we're so focused on that. Miles Sanders goes untouched.
Mm-hmm.
So Jalen wasn't necessarily running it. But the other thing too, Jalen Hurts has the Avengers blocking for him. I mean, like Landon Dickerson's a Pro Bowler, Jason Kelsey's a Hall of Famer, Lane Johnson's a Hall of Famer, Jordan Mailata is a gigantic human being. Their offensive line is a gigantic weapon for them.
Yeah, and
because that combined with his ability to run, that's really, really hard to beat.
Yeah, and I agree that I don't think Hurts was 100%. It looked like that he also took a couple shots in that game. There was one where Hufanga hit him in the back when he slid or he dove forward, so it wasn't a slide, so he wasn't protected, and he got up wincing. And I was like, had that happened earlier in the game, it really could have changed the game. But by that point, the game was basically over, and I was surprised that they were even running Hurts. So second half,
yeah, they kept running him.
Yeah, second half, nothing really to go over there. The game was basically over, even though Purdy came in and could probably only throw it like 5 yards. It was really tough to watch.
It was like, oh, he's in, and it's like, no, we're running it like every play. Like it'd be 4th and 11. It's like, no, this is going to be a run. Just how are we going to run?
The old Georgia Tech wing tee offense. It was tough.
I wish they just would have said, Christian, like this is over. Go have some fun. Go throw the ball.
Yeah, sling it left-handed. See what happens. Yeah, it was definitely tough. The Trent Williams body slam was
decent, as a fan, I'm like, this is going to turn into a hockey game. Like this is going to turn into someone's not going to finish this game, and well, it was him. Yeah, so these I don't. Can you imagine working all that hard and like you're down 4 quarterback, they all get hurt, like just all that work you put in. It's like some of these guys were like, I'm going to take somebody's head off. I don't care.
A very, very frustrating.
He's like, I did not wake up today thinking I was going to be blocking for Christian McCaffrey on a pass.
Yeah. Yeah, you could tell the Niners O-line, especially the right side, was struggling in the game. But then, when you're playing in a hopeless second half with, a wildcat quarterback or a quarterback who can't even throw the ball, they lost their cool, and you can't blame them at all. A very, very frustrating end to what was a pretty magical season. Purdy gets his first loss on his record, but it's mostly an incomplete since he missed almost the entire game, and then the Niners' 12-game winning streak snapped. Tough way to end the season, but all in all, if you would have said at the beginning of the year that Lance and Garoppolo would both suffer season-ending injuries and you would make it all the way to the NFC Championship game, you would be like, damn, that's a hell of a ride. So great job by Kyle and the boys.
Yeah,
I mean, get them this far.
These days feel like a funeral. But yeah, I mean, it's a good season. I mean, it sucks to say now, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to make it this far, and
you could tell Kyle was absolutely gutted in that post game.
We tried hard. We had fun today. We'll go get him next year.
Tough way to go out. Really crummy game. From that game to the AFC Championship game, which was a slugfest, absolute slugfest. 23-20 win for the Chiefs. Obviously, a million different things you could talk about in this game. I'm going to start off the top. Obviously, we'll talk about how the game ended in a little bit, but I just want to say we have done a great job, I think, on this podcast for the first 12 episodes of just being like, this team won because of this. This team won because of this. We like this team because of this reason. I think this game was the biggest game of this season and maybe since the 2018 NFC Championship game to be decided exclusively by the refs. I thought this was an awful performance by the refs in that game. I saw 8 or 9 different calls that all went against the Bengals. if you're a Bengals fan, you got to feel like you got shafted in that one. Really, really tough second half by that officiating crew. The whole situation with the 3rd and 9, the play happens, and then they said, oh, there was an issue with the clock. So they got essentially a 4th chance at getting the first down on 3rd down, and then got the first down on a penalty. And it was just like Zach Taylor blowing a gasket on the sideline. Really, really, really tough way for Cincinnati to go out. I mean, as someone who bet on Kansas City or on Cincinnati, of course I'm going to feel that way. But you're a neutral in that game, and you had to have been thinking the same thing. Cincinnati got shafted.
Yeah, that I was like, what down is it? Is it like 5th down on that sequence? And then I just knew as soon as they replayed the down, I'm like, this is about to be a penalty. Like
Yes.
Someone's getting like a first down on it, like automatic first down penalty. I'm like, that is a guarantee. Even on the final play that, not the kick, but that Mahomes run, like I've seen on some apps, people screenshotted like a giant hold on the Bengals, on the Chiefs guy holding with the Bengals, like nose tackle or whoever it was coming up the middle. And yeah, I don't know. I really, really, really hate making it about officiating, but yeah, this one was questionable at best.
Yeah, I was trying to throw it back to 2018 NFC Championship Saints Rams with the famous pass interference no call that essentially sent the Rams to the Super Bowl that year. This felt like, I mean, that was one egregious, gigantic missed call. This one felt like a compilation of 7 or 8 in the second half that screwed over Cincinnati.
It honestly just makes me think, like, what place does replay have in sports? Because the subjective, like the decisions they make in the offseason to make some calls reviewable, some not, like the fact that they can stop it, like there probably was an eye in the sky guy who said like the clock's wrong or whatever, like during that play, but then they stop it. But like, yeah, think about the Devontae Smith, catch, no catch. Like, I'm sure somebody could have seen, like, do we want to get it right or do we want to get it right?
Mm-hmm.
Why are some plays reviewable? Why are some not? Why? And it either makes me go back to like, well, then we should have no challenges and every little thing should be reviewable and this would all take 7 hours, or just get rid of replay and make it just, I guess less subjective, although it would be subjective on the human being ref to get it right. I don't know. It's just in every sport, it's just odd. Like I was watching sports, they're making a big deal about, I guess, the Lakers Celtics last night. Yeah. Like LeBron absolutely lost it and it's like it takes 2 seconds to see that he was fouled. Like, and we're all just gonna pretend like it didn't happen. And it just, in any sport, it's just really odd. Like, I don't know. But yeah. Bengals got absolutely hosed.
Yeah, overall, I thought it was a really gutty performance by both Burrow and Mahomes. It was not going to be one of those games. So I thought this, if Mahomes was healthy, which he was more healthy than I was expecting him to be, I thought this was going to be a shootout. It was not. It was a slugfest. I thought Spagnuolo and Anarumo, the defensive coordinators, did an awesome job of kind of keeping both quarterbacks contained to doing, what they're usually doing, which is over the middle, short throws, and then Burrow obviously had a couple bombs to Higgins that really changed the game. It looked like Casey was essentially in control until that, long touchdown to T. Higgins down the right sideline.
They were looking pretty good until Mahomes threw it backwards.
Yes, which was very surprising. I saw him do that, and I was like, if Collinsworth was watching this, he was like, oh.
Yeah, I was like, wow, the narrative went from like this guy's, Michael Jordan to he just threw it backwards. Like, and it was like, and it, turnover. I mean, that could have been just catastrophic, but nope, somebody decided to make a dumber play later in the game.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about that play coming up here shortly. That's an iconic one. It's right up there with that 2018 NFC Championship. I believe it was Roby Coleman diving into was like Tommy Lee Lewis or one of those gadget players for the Saints trying to make a catch, and it essentially just decided the game, decided who went to the Super Bowl that year. And we had another one of those plays today that it all came down to one play and a guy lost his cool. So super rough ending to that game. We'll get more into that later and get into our Super Bowl preview. So Chiefs-Eagles, couple of marquee teams. The 2 1 seeds do make it to the Super Bowl again, which hasn't happened for a while. Last year we had 2 4 seeds meet in the Super Bowl, and then the Niners were a 6 who got to the NFC Championship. So a lot of upsets last year. This year it goes chalk. The 1 beats the 2 and the 1 beats the 3. Kansas City against the Eagles coming up in the Super Bowl. Before we get to the Super Bowl preview and Joey's Jack and the Bum of the Week, a lot of rumors from Adam Schefter after the Niner game ended that DeMeco Ryans is going to go to Houston. They said Houston is basically pulling out all the stops to hire him as their next head coach. You got to wonder, does he take that job? Because it's definitely Houston having to sell him on the opportunity rather than him saying, I want to interview for this job, because that is probably the worst job in the NFL right now.
His job sucks. I'm quite shocked he would take it because, I know everyone, if he doesn't get a job, there's going to be so many takes about why, but I'm like, how about you just think about DeMeco's good enough to where he doesn't have to take maybe the shittiest coaching job in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Texans are just a turnstile at the coaching staff. But I heard today that his wife's from there. Like, he did play for them, and like his wife, they still have family there, and he probably does have so much leverage. Like, he probably does get a pretty decent contract. He probably gets full control of the roster, which I doubt, because they got that. Did they still have Casario?
I believe he and Easterby both left. They're searching for basically everybody at every level there. So it's a complete tire fire rebuild from the top. The Houston Texans fans want new ownership. Doesn't look like they're going to get it, but like you're saying, he has the connections to Houston. He played there for many years. Looks like a guy that is a perfect sell to the fan base there. But you're right, he's got all the leverage. And I would imagine, Shanahan is really going to be like, hey, stay here, we can win a Super Bowl. But it looks like the Houston job is his if he wants it. And then, of course, he'll interview for a few others. There's still 3 other openings besides that one. And DeMeco Ryans acquitted himself well.
He can give us a parting gift and give us a second round pick, which would be like pick 33 for Trey Lance if he wants.
Yeah, that would be an ideal
He
parting gift. Another coaching move this week. So Frank Reich hired as the next head coach of the Carolina Panthers. That was a surprise to me. This feels a lot like last year, where Rich Bisaccia was passed over for the Raider job in lieu of it was McDaniels who was brought in, as well as some former like Patriots GM guys. It's basically like Patriots West there now. That blew up in their face. It does feel like Wilkes was the player's choice, and yet they go with Frank Reich. Obviously, Reich has a history of working with crazy quarterback situations and still putting together a pretty decent team, but he has not gotten far in the playoffs. And I was shocked at this hire. I thought maybe he would get one of the other jobs out there. I did not expect Carolina, who has this, rah-rah owner who's willing to pay any price for any coach, for them to settle for a mediocre coach in Frank Reich. Kind of a strange hire, in my opinion. What did you think when you saw that?
Well, it's probably why they hired Frank Reich. I mean, it's not maybe the most desirable job. Frank played for Carolina, and I heard he still got a home there. So he has like DeMeco to Houston. He has connections to Carolina, and just the way the league's going is they're leaning offense, and Steve Wilkes, is a defensive guy. And yeah, I mean, it's exactly like the Raiders last year, and it backfired. Maybe Frank Reich, maybe they plan on taking a QB really high, and they want Frank to be the guy to groom him, but
they're probably hoping to do, what he did with Wentz early on. They want him to do with a new quarterback there, would be the thought.
Yeah, I mean, I would think. But it's weird. It's like he gets hired. They're like, Steve, you want to be D coordinator? He's like,
it's a rough look. Yeah. And Wilkes understandably pissed. There's 3 other openings, unless there's a surprise retirement somewhere in the offing. But we'll go over more coaching hires and whatnot as we head towards the offseason.
I thought today Miami hiring Vic Fangio, that was a blow, because I was like, well, if we lose D'Amico, we could get him back. Nope, no, we can't. And they made him the highest paid coordinator in the league.
Yeah,
Apparently.
I mean, obviously, Fangio, not necessarily a failure as a head coach. He just didn't do that well with that Broncos roster because we saw, a much worse version of what a Broncos head coach could be this year with Hackett. Segue from there, Nathaniel Hackett hired as the new OC of the Jets.
He's making so much money based on being Rodgers' best friend.
It's unbelievable. And all the rumors are now that the Packers are going to move on from Rodgers and that the Jets are the logical destination. He is following the exact career path of Brett Favre. 18 seasons with the Packers, 1 season with the Jets. Hopefully it's not 2 seasons with the Vikings because I don't want that guy on my team. But anyway, pretty crazy situation.
Rodgers to Minnesota and Kirk to Kyle.
Please, God, no. I can't take this. I can't have another 40-year-old quarterback who could be killed on any play. And
hey, that's okay. I just want somebody to finish the season.
Yeah, that's all you're looking for.
I just want somebody to be upright when the season's over.
The silly season is starting. That's what they call it in England when it's like transfer season, when players are switching teams.
It's a good way to put it.
The silly season is starting. There's going to be 3 more coaching hires. There's going to be a QB carousel coming up. Rodgers seems to be basically done with the Packers. Really does look like Lamar Jackson's going to be on the move. A lot of moving parts. Kirk Cousins on a 1-year deal. A lot of teams are going to draft quarterbacks. There's going to be a wild trade or 2 coming in there. So once the Super Bowl's over, it is going to shift into high gear as we head towards the new league year and the draft. Let's head over to your Joey's Jack in the Bum of the Week, and we may have the Jack in the Bum of the Year. That's what you texted me when you saw this play. We'll get to here in a moment. But my candidates, I probably would have picked the officials in the KC Cincy game. I thought that was probably the worst officiated game of 2022. And then the ref that along the sideline missed Devontae Smith's catch, quote unquote, in the Niner game. So a couple bums there, but you have the Jack in the Bum of the Year.
Again, fantastic candidates, but this Sunday there's only 2 games, not as many, but yeah, this might be the gold medal, whatever you want to call it, for Jack in the Bum of the Week. Might be of the year. But I'm going with Joseph Asai for the Cincinnati Bengals for the absolutely abomination, atrocious late hit out of bounds to, send his team home. Just flat out 1, 2, 3, Cancun, we're going home, because I just couldn't stop myself. And it makes what would have been probably a Hail Mary attempt. If not,
they said it would have been a 57 or 58-yard field goal, which in that weather was not going to be good.
Yeah, makes it a 45-yard. Just can't do it. Wish I had Mike Singletary. Can't do it.
Can't do it.
I want windows. That was a loser. That was a losing play. I feel like I think about how the Niners lost, and it's like, yeah, it's more like just sad. It feels like we just got an incomplete on the report card today. The Bengals, if I was a Bengals fan, oh boy, that guy better delete his Twitter if he's got one. He might want a one-way ticket to Thailand, go hang out with Cliff. I don't know, but he better have a strong support system, because boy, it's going to be a long off season for him. And it just can't happen. I just literally, you see it too. You see it. He's running to the side. He's like, I'm not even really rooting for the Bengals or anybody. Just fan of the game. I'm like, don't hit him. Don't do it. And I was like, oh, are the refs going to throw him a bone and not? Nope. They threw it, and it's like, yep. Refs might have been pretty bad today, but I can't argue with that one. That was 15, and it's just. I texted you too. I'd be such a terrible teammate. I'd throw him under the bus, and then I'd put the bus in reverse and run him over again. I can't believe we did all those lifting weights, ran all those sprints, all that stuff, to have you do that. Jack in the Bum of the Week, might be of the year.
Devastating for Joseph Asai, who earlier in the game was getting shout-outs from Nance and Romo for the impact he was having on the game, coming up the middle on blitzes and hitting Mahomes, and then boom, this is going to be the only thing he's known for until hopefully he makes, some big play
You better
next
have
year.
a pick six in the Super Bowl.
That's, you hope for a redemption story for that guy.
Even think about like Russell Wilson. Like, say whatever you want about him. Like, he's had a Hall of Fame career, and people are still going to be like, yeah, but remember that pick at the 1 yard line? Like,
people remember you for usually just one thing. And like, obviously we watch a ton of football. Most everyone we text and talk to watches a ton of football. The vast majority of the American public, they only watch a few games a year, or they like watch every game, but they don't know every player on every team. They know their team, and they're like, oh, I hope we win this year. You get a lot of that. A lot of people are going to know that guy for only one thing for his whole career. So tough spot for him. You hate doing the jack and the bum of the week on someone who's like absolutely devastated rather than some guy that just made some stupid play, but it hurts. It had to be him.
The only thing that I think this year that would have been worse is if the Jacoby Myers happened like in a bigger game.
Yeah, in like a playoff decider. Yeah.
Like that would have been it. Like that was probably the dumbest play of the year.
Yes.
But who cares? That was Patriots. Who cares? This one, oh boy, that's
most impactful play of the season because it sent Kansas City to the Super Bowl. Pretty wild. Let's do a quick Super Bowl preview. We were going to do another pod next week to like preview the Super Bowl and, bring back Johan, who was awesome on the pod last week, and talk about the Niners as they're in their matchup.
Hopefully he didn't eat his medicine cabinet today.
Yeah, he was texting me before the game. He's like, I'm at an age now where I'm ambivalent about the whole thing. I want us to win, obviously, but I'm not going to be devastated if we lose. And then still, of course, the text throughout the whole game, he's just like, what was that? What was that? And I'm like, of course, we've all been there, but we're going to probably.
That's so funny he says that, because before the game today, I'm like, you know what? If it goes bad, like Joey, like really just like be a grown up. Like, don't rip a shirt in half this time. Like, don't throw your hat and break something. Like, just be cool. And then I did throw my hat one time, and it was on the Josh Johnson fumble. That was it. Yeah. After that, I was like, this is over. But yeah. I could try and tell myself, like, it's just a game. Nope, it's not in me.
No. There's no way you can do it. We were gonna do another pod to preview if the Niners made it, but obviously the gusto for this game has been lowered just a little bit with the Niners not making it, the Vikings being eliminated early, and will be a good Super Bowl though. You'd have two marquee teams, the two number one seeds, probably. These teams both went 14-3, probably the two best teams in the league. You would say. I thought maybe Cincinnati was better than Philly, but Philly with a fully healthy Jalen Hurts, probably the second best team in the NFL. It's going to be a great game. The line has opened at Kansas City pick. I expected Kansas City -2.5, and a lot of people to bet on Kansas City at that number and see if it got to 3. It is surprisingly opened at pick, and I think part of that is, let's start with the Chiefs here. Is Mahomes going to be at full health 14 days from now? Because he was definitely walking around gingerly on that ankle today. Better than I thought. We thought he was going to be at like 30%. He was maybe at like 50, 60%. Will he be close to 100?
If I'm correct, I heard on the broadcast he did not take a shot, like the painkiller.
I'm going to be like Maury from the TV show. The lie detector determined that was a lie.
He didn't want the Tyrod Taylor. He's like, I'm playing today. I can't risk you missing.
Yeah, there was some sort of product on his ankle. It may not have been a shot, but there's something there.
But you're right. He looked a lot better than I thought. But full credit to him, because I thought they were going to get, even at home, I thought they would struggle, but he was sensational. Travis Kelce did play and did catch a lot of passes.
A lot of rumors before the game that he wasn't playing.
Even the Chiefs, I mean, they lost Tony. I mean, they were down at one point, I think, to 2 healthy wide receivers and still pulled it out. But yeah, I mean, it should be a really good Super Bowl. Don't know who to root for as a Niner fan. I don't hate either one of these teams, but I just, the Bengals were easy. Like the Bengals were an easy, like, all right, let's go, Joey. Here we go. But now, I don't know.
I agree. Last year, especially, I mean, you as a Niner fan, you were rooting against Stafford and the Rams.
That was easy.
Yeah, that was easy for me too. I'm a big Burrow guy. It was easy to root for Cincinnati. And then the season before that, I'm a Brady guy, so I was rooting for Brady against Mahomes.
I was rooting for Tom.
Yeah, and then the season before that was the Niners, so very easy for you to know who to root for. And then the season before that was Patriots Rams, and again, you don't like the Rams, so you were, this feels like the first one since the Philly Super Bowl against New England, where it's like, hey, let's just see a good game, because in that game it was like the Eagles hadn't won the Super Bowl. I was pissed that the Vikings had lost to them, but I was probably rooting a little bit more for New England, but it was pretty neutral. I feel like this is the biggest neutral Super Bowl since the Carolina versus Denver, which like nobody gave a shit who won. Like two franchises that just
I mean, I guess it all depends. Like if you're a Jets fan, you probably like were like, let's go Nick Foles. You just hate the Patriots, or like if
right.
But like if you take out those teams, well, I guess even last year, like if you're not a Niner fan, like Rams, Bengals, like, I mean, the Rams don't even have fans in LA.
Yeah.
So like,
this is a true.
Hated.
I texted you this. The parade happened in LA. I live down here. It was probably, I don't know, a mile and a half east of where we live. 12,000 fans attended their parade. That's not like it's not like they're using that to make fun of like how many fans. It was clearly more than that. No, it was 12,000 fans. For when the Kansas City Royals won the World Series, they had over 1 million people at their parade. And it was like, Kansas City has like, 400,000 people. How's that even possible? But like people came from all over the state. It was a huge moment. Same for when the Chiefs won. Same for when the Eagles won in 2017. When the Warriors won last year, my company that I work for, we did all the signage for that parade. And it was like one of the biggest things I've ever seen. I'm looking at these images on TV. I'm like, that is insane. Like that part of San Francisco never has people, from wall to wall for like 3 miles. It's incredible. And then there's just no interest in LA. So like, I do like it in that there's no Rams in this Super Bowl. There's no team that, like Carolina or whoever, who doesn't have much of a fan base. This is two, blue blood franchises. The Eagles been around since the 20s. Kansas City's been around since the late 50s. Big matchup, two great quarterbacks. I want to talk about the Eagles a little bit because I am strongly leaning towards betting Kansas City at pick in this game. I think because the Eagles technically blew out the Niners, even though I grade that as an incomplete. They won by 24 points, and then Kansas City won by 3. I feel like the line would have been much bigger if, say, Philadelphia only beat you by 7 or Kansas City won by 10. So as a guy who's like very strongly considering Kansas City at pick, if you're going to say, make the case for the Eagles going into this game with 2 more weeks of Hurts trying to get healthy, like what is the case for Philly at that number if you had to make it?
Oh, I mean, Chris Jones, the Bengals struggled big time to protect Joe Burrow. After what I saw today, the Eagles are not going to struggle to protect Jalen Hurts. Chris Jones is going to get a face full of Jason Kelsey and Landon Dickerson, and if he goes outside, he's going to face either a Hall of Famer or maybe the biggest left tackle I've ever seen in my life. So they're not going to get to Jalen whether he's 100% or not. And if Mahomes doesn't get any better, I like the Bengals pass rush, but the Eagles got more guys that can get after him. If he's going to be able to, or if he's not going to be able to scramble out of some sacks, the Eagles are going to get after him. And but Mahomes proved me wrong today. I thought he'd be more hurt than he was. So, but I think, just the same reason why I thought they have a great chance in every game. Really, is just they are elite of the elite on the lines, and that helps you in any game.
Yeah, I definitely wasn't prepared to see how good Philly's offensive line was given the last 4 weeks of the regular season. They had trouble with whether it was Minshew or Hurts in there, protecting the quarterback, scoring points. They completely turned that narrative in the Giant game. And then this last game against the Niners, again, I got to grade it as an incomplete. You're playing against a team without a quarterback, and they did score 31 points, but they had the ball for basically all of the game, with the Niners unable to put together any kind of offensive attack. So this is a really interesting Super Bowl, kind of like the 2017 one where it was Nick Foles, and you're like, hey, what even are the Eagles? It feels similar where, hey, what even are the Eagles? They played a absolutely trash Giants team in their first playoff matchup, and then they played an incomplete Niners team today with no quarterback. So a lot of moving parts there. It's going to be interesting.
I just thought about it. Like, Eagles 14-3, and like they're damn good. I'm not trying to rain on their parade, but it just goes to show you, like, just to win, like, you need so many things to go your way. Like, Minnesota gets upset at home. They play the Giants. Okay. Beat the Giants. They get the Niners, who thinks could be even matched. Literally, they had a corpse at quarterback. And they're like, boop, 2 home games, and we're in the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get to the Super Bowl, and they're going to face, obviously a damn good Chiefs team, but like Mahomes is on one leg, and it's just like, man, like every championship. I'm not saying they're like what did been the 2019 Toronto Raptors where the Warriors lost everybody, and like everyone was like, okay, you're lucky they lost everybody because you needed all of those guys to go down. But man, it's just that's the way sports go sometimes.
It really is. I mean, the way you look at every championship team in basically every sport, there's always several breaks.
Yeah,
especially in the
you can say that
playoffs.
about every single team. Like that ever wins. It's something.
Yeah, and it's been a magical ride for the Eagles. Their head coach probably going to win Coach of the Year. A defense that's got 4 guys with 10 or more sacks, a quarterback that's in the running for MVP, and they're trying to cap it off with their second Super Bowl in 5 years. So big moment for the Eagles, and then Mahomes and Reed playing in a legacy game. If they each win their second title, first ballot Hall of Fame secured, all-time greats secured. You probably move Andy Reid into the top 5 coaches of all time. Mahomes becomes the heir apparent to Brady, at the expense of Burrow, who had the opportunity to get there had he won today. Big statement Super Bowl coming up. Before we get to my You Like That picks of the week, it's just going to be one pick this week because there's only one game coming up. Anything else outside of the NFL that we want to talk about in the sports world? I'm getting a little excited looking at baseball coming up this season. I know you're kind of checked out on baseball in general, but hope springs eternal. Once the Vikings are eliminated, I pivot straight into A's mode. It used to be I would pivot into Sharks mode, but that ain't happening this year. For me, I'm gonna watch some. I always get excited for the Masters in April. I like watching the Champions League knockout round. Some good sports to tide us over until football comes back. But I'm thinking, at some point before we do like NFL draft pods and then previews of the season next year, we're going to have to come on and discuss some other sports. So hopefully we get some good stuff from the world of NHL and baseball. And how are you going to pass the time now that the Niners are eliminated and there's no game coming to Levi Stadium until September? What are we going to do?
Well, I sadly will still watch the Sharks. I watched them last night. Logan Couture 5-point night. We avoided the tank last night. Yeah, I definitely will watch hockey trade deadline coming up. Let's see what fire sale happens. But yeah, golf. Pebble Beach next week.
Awesome to watch that on TV.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this the other day. Like, we have all these streaming stuff, and like they were talking about the ratings. Or I read something about ratings, how the NFL just blows every other sport. It's only getting worse. And I'm like, all this streaming stuff, like, it thought maybe it could help other sports, maybe kind of close the gap a little bit on the NFL. And all it does is make people watch the NFL year round. And like, yeah, you said it. I probably will start watching, like, Kuiper, McShay mock drafts, like a total nerd. Probably watch a bunch of dudes run in their underwear at the combine and be like, oh, like, it's crazy, but like, it is like, football just dominates the calendar year round. Yeah, I guess I want to watch baseball, but man, it just that for me that just like
I'm going to Riviera to see the Genesis Invitational, which is in 2 weeks. That's always a blast. I think going to golf tournaments is a blast. There's always the storyline of, is Tiger going to play at Augusta again this year? That's something I'm going to watch. My team, Tottenham Hotspurs, in the UEFA Champions League round of 16, hoping they can make a run to the final again like they did in 2019. So a few things we'll just gloss over as we head into the offseason pod. We got to talk coaching hires, quarterback moves when free agency opens, draft needs for the Vikings and Niners, top 5 picks in the draft. There's a lot to go over, and we're going to keep the pod going as we head into the offseason. But one more big game to go before we get to that point. So here's my Super Bowl you like that pick. I was debating maybe looking at the over-under. We haven't done a total yet. Obviously, like when I'm betting on my own, I do bet over-unders. I bet player props. I had Isaiah Pacheco under 50 rushing yards today because I, for whatever reason, thought it was going to be all McKinnon. So I do bets like that, and I'll obviously have a few for the Super Bowl. People do wild ones like, what color will the Gatorade be when they dump it on the coach? Fun bets like that. I always love doing the over-under on the length of the national anthem. That shit's always fun, but we're going to just go with a regular pick this week. So Super Bowl 57 in Glendale, Arizona. We're going Kansas City pick'em against Philly. I think Hurts and Mahomes are probably somewhere around the same level of, injury. Obviously, both are not 100%. Will they be back to 100% by game time? I don't know. I trust Reed and Mahomes more than I trust Sirianni and Hurts, despite the advantage that Philly has on the offensive line, and then maybe the defensive line, even though Chris Jones is really catching fire here. So I'm going to go with Kansas City pick'em. We'll see if it gets there. We went 4-4 in the playoffs. We went 25-15-5 in the regular season. If we can finish with a win here, we'll be 5-4 in the playoffs. We will have had a winning record in both the playoffs and the regular season. So you like that pick of the week for Super Bowl 57, Kansas City pick'em against the Philadelphia Eagles. Joey, it's time for your feels great, baby. Your wildest take you feel best about currently. You texted me this 5 seconds after the Brock Purdy injury was announced. The Niners believe it to be a UCL. They're really hoping that it's not a rupture, which would mean Tommy John surgery and a perhaps 6 to 9, even 12-month recovery.
If it's Tommy John, I thought for sure he misses at least one season.
Right.
I thought Tommy John was like 12 to 18 months.
Well, it is for MLB pitchers, I believe. I believe for NFL QBs, it's a little bit shorter. Just a little bit, not a ton. Like when they were saying that Josh Allen may need that before the Vikings
talking about
game
it with
this
Stafford
year.
too.
Yeah, they say with an NFL quarterback more than an MLB pitcher.
Didn't I have a feels great, baby? Like we're gonna get more Tommy John, and it happens to my guy. Oh my God!
Oh, you played yourself. I do remember that. You were like, Stafford had it. Allen looks like he might have it, and now I really hope Brock Purdy just has, as they were saying, like a slight tear, and that he can rehab it and be ready for next year and be in a QB competition, perhaps with Trey Lance there. But you're thinking a completely different direction that this thing could go if he really does need Tommy John.
Well, you said silly season, and we're about to get very silly at Niners quarterback. And my feels great baby take is Tommy Boy's coming home. Tom Brady will be QB1 for the San Francisco 49ers. He's had a tough year. Lost his family. Lost a lot of money. Yeah, that's tough. Lost a lot of games. Got pretty embarrassed in the playoff game, but the NFL threw him a bone today, and job opening at QB1 for the San Francisco 49ers might have opened up, because if Brock Purdy does need Tommy John, he is not playing, and I'm pretty convinced that the 49ers are out on Lance. It just hasn't. The whole time it's just felt like a square peg in a round hole. Are we even sure that Kyle actually wanted him? Are we sure? I just and this team is proven the last couple of years, 3 of the last 4 years. I mean, their window is bright now, and they don't have time for this to be a developmental year with him. And he serves no purpose as a backup because he hasn't played. Like they need like a veteran guy who can go in there and maybe win 2 out of 4 starts because, as we know, the quarterback will get hurt on this team. It will happen. It's just a matter of when.
And the only way to solve that quarterback injury problem is to hire the oldest player
I
in the
know
history
it makes
of the NFL.
it's ass backwards, but hopefully Tom can recruit an entire new right side of the line. The Trey Lance and a 1 for Tristan Wirfs. Can we get that done, Tampa? Maybe. You're gonna need a quarterback. We could use a right tackle. I'm pretty sure
probably the best job
it's
opening
either
in all
either
of
him or
sports.
Jimmy.
Right. It's the
But I
best
think
job
does Jimmy
opening in
finally
sports
say
right
like
now.
does Jimmy finally say like, all right, guys, you tried to replace me like 900 times. I'm out of here. But if cooler heads prevail, like where is he going to go and be as successful as he could be here? The Jets? But the Jets look like they want Aaron Rodgers.
Right.
Like it would have been solid there. Does he go to Houston with D'Amico?
That's
but part of the
not-
reason
no.
but part of the reason why, thought, Purdy was such a steal was his play, but like he's free. So
Right.
like
in an era where quarterbacks are getting paid 40 to 50 million a year,
Yeah.
he's making under $1 million, I believe, against the cap next year.
Yeah, it's just funny. Like they were talking about Christmas gifts. People, and Trey Lance gave like the offensive line, I think, like an expensive like suit fitting thing, and they asked like, "What did Brock Purdy get you?" And the guy's like, "Wins." He can't. I think they interviewed Jake Brendel, the center. Like he's given us wins. He can't really afford much. Because if you don't know, $900K out here in the Bay Area, it doesn't get you a roommate. It doesn't even get you a house.
Yeah, he's having to live in Iowa and commute. It's the
Like,
only way.
For people who don't know, he lives with a 5th round pick who hasn't played a snap this year. I don't even think he's dressed in any game. I don't even know his name, but I just know I think he was an offensive lineman they took in the 5th round. I think his last name starts with a Z. That's the best I can give the people. But that's who his roommate is. And
that's what being the last pick in the draft gets you in the NFL draft system with salaries and whatnot. So he's on a 4-year deal, and then the 5th-year option will be cheap. So
I think absolutely anything and everything is on the table. I'm sure Tom Brady's agent's probably already texted Kyle. If Minnesota, do you want to give up Kirk Cousins? Literally anything.
That would break the podcast if it's March 12th.
We have to change that color that you like that to red and gold.
Oh my God. And then and then like Brady goes to the Vikings or something. Anything is possible. It would be absolutely nuts. I do think that is going to be a talking point. First of all, you and I both hope that the news comes out tomorrow. Purdy will be ready for training camp.
As much as I say that, I genuinely, honestly, if you had a gun to my head, I don't think Brady coming here is like as great as of an idea as it might be. Like he's 46 and our quarterbacks get injured like once every 4 weeks. It feels like what makes me think he's going to stand upright other than his brain, could tell you exactly what's going to happen before it happens. And he didn't even want to take hits this year. Like, I don't know.
And
but
he
can't play.
As you've said, Shanahan, really more than anything, like he loves a quarterback who stays in there, takes the hit, and delivers the ball on time. And that's not Brady at this point.
I don't even think they would mesh well because Kyle's very, very rigid. Like he gets touted as like this genius, but it's like he's very, very like he's like run my plays. Like I don't think he would have liked a Mahomes, a Josh Allen. Like he's like this guy's open. Like I schemed him open, hit him. Like that's why he loves Kirk Cousins. That's why he loved Purdy. I assume that's why he probably wanted Mac Jones.
Right.
I think at least they didn't do that. But and Brady's like he's like, I got my own ideas that I mean, what was the report? He designs his own plays Saturday nights after the Bucks do the whole week. And then he's like, all right, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin. Okay, this play that Byron designed sucks. I want to have you run this route instead. Like, Kyle's like, if he finds that out 1 second, he like, Tom, sit on the bench.
That the more we talk about it, the more it's less of a fit. So if Purdy is deemed healthy and he competes with Lance in training camp, or if the Niners trade Lance and just give Purdy the job,
But if he's not healthy, I have no idea. I don't
that's
know.
what I'm saying. Is that's option one, is Purdy is healthy. If Purdy is not healthy and he does miss all of next season, I mean, the options are relatively slim. It's Jimmy, it's
Derek
Brady.
Carr?
No, you can't. I don't think he's a good fit. I think obviously Cousins is a far, far better fit than Carr, or even
Here's the
frankly
problem
Brady.
with Cousins is he's expensive as shit.
Well, he's on a 1 year, 30 million. That's what you would get him at if you traded for him next year, unless the Vikings restructure his contract. But it does sound like they're at least pretending they're committed to him.
Can the Lions draft a quarterback? Did we get Jared Goff? Bring the Cal guy back home?
I think that's a little bit of a mirage, Goff's year this year. Obviously, it was a great season for him, but
as a fan of like just football and sports, I hope they don't draft. Like Jared Goff deserves somebody to believe in him. Like, what does he have to do?
It's true. He has been to a Super Bowl. He did get the Lions to a winning record this year.
You could do worse. You could do better, but you could do worse.
Yeah, it's the musical chairs if Purdy is out.
Lamar
could
Jackson?
Be insane. That's what I'm saying. Anything is on the table for basically any of these teams. They're like, oh, Lamar Jackson most logically to Atlanta. I'm like, well, why would he want to do that? You know, is the Miami quarterback job open? A lot of, you know, obviously the Jets have an opening. The Packers are, if they go with Love, that job is closed, but they could go in a different direction. The Vikings have a quarterback on a 1-year deal, and they're trying to change things.
There's no chance the Packers would trade Rodgers to the Niners, would they? Could they?
You would
like literally the money. Like, what would their dead? I mean, would their dead cap be like $100 million or something ridiculous?
Well, no, I believe you could just trade him to the Niners. And
I thought even a dead cap, if he's not on the team, like I thought, like no, didn't like Atlanta have a huge dead cap with Matt Ryan
because he had a no trade clause, I believe, and. Whatever the situation is, Rodgers can be moved. Just the team that's taking him has to take on either all of his salary.
Like if Denver traded Russ, like they were saying, like he gets like $1 billion like dead cap.
Yeah, because I believe cut him. I can't remember if he has a full no trade clause or whatever, but there's some reason that
Geno
can't
Smith?
Be done. Yeah,
is he a Niner?
The musical chairs is enormous. So all these teams,
Baker Mayfield,
Kyler Murray is out for the season next year. Arizona does not have a quarterback. Carolina doesn't have a quarterback. Atlanta doesn't have a quarterback. Like, this is going to be nuts with the whole Purdy thing. It opens up a whole
last
new
year with like Russ and Rodgers, but like this one is like that one felt more like NBA style. Like, oh, I'm my legacy like Russ and Rodgers. The whole thing is he all into himself. But this one feels like no, this is the team's like we don't have a body.
Yeah, and of all the say there's 9 to 12 decent quarterbacks on the market who could be traded or who are free agents. The job all of them want would be the SF job, like by a mile compared to all the others. You don't want the Houston job. You don't want the Atlanta job. You don't really want the Carolina job, no matter what you think of Frank Reich.
Couple things. I just thought I joked about it last week, but he might be QB1. Although he had a tough day today. Stetson Bennett going to run this back next year. His Niners QB1 taken in the 5th round.
Here's one for you. If Jalen Hurts wins
the Super Bowl, 5 years older than Trey Lance.
If Jalen Hurts wins the Super Bowl, he will be younger than the guy who won the NCAA national championship that same year. It's insane by like a full year too. Hurts won an NCAA championship like 4 years ago, and he'll have won a Super Bowl if he wins next Sunday. And is still younger than Stetson Bennett is now. It's absolutely nuts. Tough day for him. Found it. 7 a.m. pissing himself on the street.
I saw that people are like, oh, he's in college. Like, did he have to show ID? Like, no, he's almost 30.
Yeah, he's what, 26, or he will be 26 by the draft. Yeah, that. Not a good fit for anybody, I don't think. I don't think he's going to. I mean, he will be drafted. If you've won 2 national titles, you'll get drafted. He's just not going to be anybody's first choice, that's for sure. But man, that QB musical.
How many times we're going to hear on day 3 of the draft? Like, could this guy be Brock Purdy? Like, how many just average college quarterbacks to be like, right system, right coaching, right scheme. This guy could be.
One more thing about the Niners before we close that topic and end the pod. Johan was texting me. He goes, say Josh Johnson came in and the Niners won like 21-18 or something. They just had a nice, solid performance, handed off the ball a lot because he had a few dart passes to Debo on slants, and I was like, "Oh wow."
I mean, not to totally like, it was like, could we have just gotten to halftime at 14-7?
That's what I'm saying.
At worst, like he made a nice throw to Debo. Like, okay, we're driving. We had timeouts. Like, could we get 3? Could we go 14-10, get the ball? Like, rally the troops? No, we're gonna go Cam Newton.
That's the thing is Purdy's legend grew a little bit when Josh Johnson failed that badly at his job, where it was like, if Johnson had come in relief and won the game, we would be like, this Niner core outside of the quarterback is all time.
Well, they would have erected the statue for Kyle.
That's what I'm saying. It would have been, an all-time moment in the history of the franchise, but it would have led a lot of people to believe that the Purdy thing was entirely a mirage, because they would have been like, you took a guy who's been on 15 teams, who's 36, who just like cannot play in the NFL and has been on everyone's practice squad, and he got him to the Super Bowl. Then you would be like, oh shit, maybe Purdy wasn't all that good.
I feel like Phillip Rivers could have done a better job today.
Yeah, 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. Yeah, could have got Romo down from the booth and
yeah. No, I thought you were gonna say it's setting up. Like, if he can win this game and we could get to the Super Bowl, Jimmy's like one last ride.
That was my first thought when I saw the Purdy injury, was like, if this happens, first of all, if Jimmy would have been active for the game, maybe they win that game.
I wonder if there's going to be questions about that. Like Jimmy, like you weren't, like we heard, like when the injury happened, like if Brock could win one playoff game, like you'd be like divisional round, like you couldn't suit up as a backup. Like,
right.
I don't know. Was that a business decision? I'm not to hate on Jimmy here, but like he doesn't have a contract. He's trying to stay healthy.
A lot of shots of Jimmy and Trey on the sideline, like laughing and smiling.
I saw Jimmy smile. I'm like, hey, cute face, Jimmy, but like, what's so funny?
Yeah, we're getting fucking funny right boat now, raced here.
Like, you healthy? Are you walking around? What's up with you?
Get out there. Yeah. What are we doing?
Did you see Ric Flair?
No.
Tweeted out. He's like, I don't know Ric Flair like this, but I guess he like was in a plane crash or something. Was he? I don't know.
I believe so, yeah.
And he tweeted out like, get back on the field, Brock Purdy. I was in a plane crash. Like, basically called him a bum. Like, I'm like, well, Rick, Mr. Flair, if he can't throw the ball,
tough spot.
Yeah, I just like, I mean, it's yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
No, I forgot one thing. What I was going to do to kill time before next season. Forgot to watch Patrick Reed on the Dubai tour.
Oh my God. Don't even get me started on that. That whole thing with serving Rory McIlroy on Christmas Eve with like a subpoena in his lawsuit against him. And everybody's like, this has got to be a joke. He tried to serve a subpoena to Tiger Woods too, and could not get past Tiger's security. And they just gave up. They were just like, we'll remove him from the lawsuit. I'm like, what a clown.
What a dick.
Yeah, just a total clown. Let's close the pod. I wanted to talk about one thing this week that happened outside of sports. So let me give you a recap of my day today. Started off waking up at 5:40 a.m. I drove up to Woodley Lakes Golf Course in Van Nuys. I walked 18 holes and I played. I drove back. I watched the Niner game. Then I went with my wife to the batting cages before our softball game. Then we played our softball game, which was nuts. We were down, I believe, 11-3 going into the final inning. We scored 6 runs to get it to 11-9, and then I came up with the bases loaded and grounded out, and I was so mad. So mad. A double would have tied the game or given us the lead, and I was hopping mad. But completed that game, came back here recording a podcast. Got, let me look at my Fitbit, 24,370 steps today. So big man moving. I'm proud of myself for all I did today. Absolutely exhausted, but I pushed through for the pod,
I'm exhausted, but I didn't do anything.
It'd be funny to look at your Fitbit heart rate data for today, because I'm sure it spiked at around 12:15 a.m. or 12:15 p.m. when the Purdy hit happened. Devastating.
I've always wanted to do that. Like, it'd be a nice like experiment to show people like what it really is like. People like see fans like yell and scream. Like, no, I want you to understand physically what my body goes through right now, because I'm not just yelling for no reason. Like, yeah, the blood literally you feel it. It's boiling. Like, you're not even mad. Like, nothing's happened, but like, it's just the magnitude of some of this. If you're not a sports fan, I don't know where else you get this kind of juice.
Right.
Like, like Jamie's super into her work and movies. Like, is she like gonna write a script so it's gonna be so elite today? Like, gotta get this one. Hope we show up big today. Gonna put some commas in the right places and do some sick editing, and it's like, whew.
Yeah, a couple typos, and she's like, "Fuck, god damn it,"
Yeah, is there like a coach like with like Kyle like on the play sheet like you mf'er like I don't know like or anything.
We all
even
have
Kayla
our
even Kayla like nursing like better do good today. Better not mess up or else somebody dies. So better be a good one today. Better have 100% completion percentage or else it's all bad. Do the little salt.
Yeah, little smelling salts. Yeah, get fired up. Yeah, that's you and me every morning when we're like, all right, gonna send some emails, gonna do some meetups with my team.
Gonna have so many touch points. Like, the bandwidth is gonna be big today.
Yeah, I hit the smelling salts at about 7:30. I'm like, gonna check these emails, gonna make 6 phone calls, and we're gonna absolutely crush this, Or we'll do that for about an hour and a half, and then I'll read the A's blog and the Vikings blog and make my opinions for the off season for both of those teams, as I have been doing every year for God knows how long. Tough end to the Niners season for you. I wish the Vikings would have at least gotten to this point, but it felt like this season for the most part has gone as it should. The Niners were an incredible team.
I feel a lot better this happened. Like last week, I truly believe we're better than Dallas, so I was happy. I don't want to say we're better than Philly, but we're right there. But today just wasn't our day, and I can live with that.
You can live with it.
I wanted to eat the front end of a bus, but
13-4 NFC Championship game appearance. Yeah, better season than last year, even when you were the 6th seed. This year, you made it to the 2 seed, made it to the NFC Championship again. Tough way to end it, but Niners and Vikings are out, but there's still one game left. We'll be back after the Super Bowl to recap the Super Bowl, preview the offseason. We'll be with you throughout the offseason, especially when some major news breaks. We'll be hopping on to give you updates as the quarterback changes, coaching hires happen, NFL draft, and then some previews of the season once we get towards August. So thanks to everybody who's joined us to this point. Niner fans, we're so sorry that this is the end of the road, but that's the NFL, and that's why we love the game.
We'll just get them next year.
Well, nothing worse than when your friends be like, there's always next year. It's like, are you going to text me that I wonder, I'm 77 and about to croak?
I think I texted you this. I wonder if if the Eagles win, that maybe the kickoff game is Niners at Eagles next season. Because we play the NFC East next year, and we go to Philly, and Dallas comes here next year.
Yeah, it's going to be.
The Giants come here, and then Washington. We go to Washington. At least we don't have to go to the Giants, where every single player tore their knee.
What sport does your favorite team's season end, and then you watch the next game? Not even a thought in your mind of like not watching football today. Like, you have to watch it, and then you're already, 6 hours after your team's eliminated, you're like, what could the kickoff game be next year? It's probably at Philly. Like,
business is booming if you're Roger.
Business is booming in the NFL. We'll be back after the Super Bowl. Hope everybody has a great time watching that game. We'll probably pop on social media with some prop bets and some fun stuff as we head towards the Super Bowl. But we'll be back to recap the big game. Eagles-Chiefs coming up next Sunday. Everybody have a good time, and we'll see you after that game. Thanks for listening to another edition of the You Like That Feels Great Baby podcast.